from Renaissance-style chateaux, grand country estates, architectural glass masterpieces.
These are the remarkable homes
Simply breathtaking.
and magnificent landmarks
One day, my son, all this will be yours.
at the very heart of Britain's spectacular history.
I have never seen one like this.
Join me
I need to get there with all speed. Onwards, driver.
and a host of celebrities
Oh, crikey.
with a passion for the past
Kaboom! Wish me luck.
as we travel the length and breadth of the nation
It is between the walls.
and with unparalleled behind-the-scenes access.
From the highest heights
Now I'm through my blind panic.
to the deepest depths.
We'll uncover the secrets
my goodness.
still hidden within these breathtaking buildings.
These are the places that nobody else gets to see.
And explore the riches
How spectacular.
and treasures of one of our most loved institutions.
This is an amazing story. Come on, I want to know the end. I want to know the end.
Welcome to the secrets of the National Trust.
Welcome to Stow in Buckinghamshire, known for its public school in the grand house behind me, but world famous as the most magnificent landscape garden of 18th century Britain.
Full of architectural gems, imposing temples, and iconic bridges. It's Grade 1 listed and home to a formidable neoclassical mansion. The estate is spectacular.
It was the vision of Richard Viscount Cobham and designed to reflect his views of political and civil liberty.
The grand temples and monuments are as awe-inspiring today as they must have been to the many sightseers that first flocked to Stow in the 1700s. I'll be looking beyond this jaw-dropping landscape
Wish me luck.
to reveal the secrets beneath the surface.
It really is a hidden world.
I'm awarded some extra house points by the headmaster as Stow School's most famous visitor is revealed.
You're sitting in the hot seat. This is where Queen Victoria sat.
And after pushing the boat out for Her Majesty, came the sale of the century.
So you could even buy one of the temples. The Temple of Concord and Victory was up for sale.
Helping me discover the real Stow is writer and journalist Dan Jones, who'll scale any heights
Mind if I come and join you?
to help preserve the estate's most imposing monument,
Slap it on? Slap it on.
a sculpture of Cobham himself. Historian Susanna Lipscomb gets hands-on with the Norfolk stonemasons,
Most of it in the bucket.
who are recreating some of Stow's most iconic statues.
Oh, wow.
And record producer Pete Waterman finds out what this unassuming semi in Liverpool has got to do with the grand temples of Stow.
From a house like this to one of the greatest talents of all time. Just staggering.
Stow is one of England's greatest country estates. Developed first by Richard Temple, Viscount Cobham, in 1714, it was designed to impress the great and the good of his day. And he can still be found looking down on his creation from the highest pillar of all. And there's plenty to look at, as at every turn there are temples and monuments that give clues to Cobham's ideas and political ambitions, which saw the place become a magnet not only for his chums, but also for the general public who turned up in their droves, leading Cobham to add a more modest building to his Stow property portfolio.
My journey begins some 300 years ago at the New Inn, which was built to welcome the numerous visitors to Stow.
It was one of the first establishments of its kind, built to accommodate day trippers.
Hello.
I'm meeting the National Trust's Catherine Lovell, who's going to open up the doors to this trailblazing public house.
Lord Cobham created the New Inn in 1717. Visitors were already wanting to come and see the garden. We had a brewery, dairy, and also rooms, although sources from the time tell us that those rooms perhaps weren't the highest quality.
Are we talking
Yes,
wildlife?
yeah. So,
you're really selling this place well to
yeah, well, it's a lot nicer nowadays.
Tell me about Cobham the man. What do we know he was like?
So, Sir Richard Temple inherited Stow in 1697, aged 21. And when George I came to the throne, he was created Baron Cobham. So Cobham and his family were very politically ambitious. They followed the Whig Party ideals and the Protestant religion.
Whigs and Tories were the two big parties then, weren't they? So the Whigs were the Protestant movers
exactly.
and shakers in a way.
Yes, very much so. And the family really believed in political liberties and freedoms, and that was something that we see in the gardens that he created.
Good day, sir, lady. Your ale to quaff? No, indeed.
Well, it's a bit early for me, but that's very kind. Thank you very much. Yeah. Oh, it's just opening time, clearly.
Cheers.
I shouldn't be drinking that and working, aren't I, really? What was his motive in laying this garden out in the fashion that he did?
The amazing temples and monuments that we see here very much embody their political ideals. They had a great love of ancient Greek freedoms, and they really believed that that was the start and the origin of political liberties as they saw at that time.
So, did everybody who came here understand what they were looking at? There's this garden laid out with all kinds of classical allegories and allusions.
I think it's quite likely that they didn't. The meanings were quite hidden, and if you hadn't had that classical education, you probably couldn't read the garden. They were probably a bit better at reading the garden then than we are now, but I think regardless of that, you can just take it in for the scale and grandeur. They're probably nothing they've seen before, and really, really awesome and jaw-dropping for the visitors to see.
I failed me 11 plus. I think I'll just finish my beer and then go and have a look.
Cheers.
They may look natural, but these gardens were carefully designed. The elegant buildings and eye-catching stretches of water are connected by a network of planned paths, all calculated to woo the era's most influential political and literary figures. To help me get my bearings in this fabulous place, I've recruited Stow's gardener, Patrick Green.
Patrick, where are we now?
So we've walked down Belgate Drive from New Inn, where you'd stay as an 18th century visitor, and you'd walk through to a fabulous view of the south front of Stow House.
You've got a great view of the south front. You've also got various paths in various directions, so you had to make a choice where you'd go.
Yes, you're at a juncture of 4 paths.
Now, this is Lord Cobham then, so he gave each path a different theme.
Absolutely. You've got the path of vice, which stretches off to the western side of the garden for infidelity and all things lewd. Ooh. And then you've got the virtuous path opposite the path of vice that stretches off here.
That's the boring one. It's very straight.
It's the slightly less boring one. And then you've got the path of liberty, which is an uphill struggle and reminds you of your Saxon heritage.
So you then had to make up your mind which of these you wanted to explore?
Yes, because dividing those is the narrow path of life that stretches from the house all the way down to the triumphal arch that leads you down into Buckingham. And nobody sticks to the narrow path of life. They deviate off to vice or to virtue or to liberty. So the choice is yours, Alan. Which path are you going to take?
You know which one I'm going for, don't you?
Absolutely.
Vice, come on.
The alternative pathways of virtue and liberty proudly salute political freedoms. With the Temple of British Worthies celebrating poets, scientists and philosophers such as Shakespeare, Newton and Locke. But I'm on the path of vice, which passes the rotunda, housing Venus, goddess of sex, before bringing us to her temple.
So why would Lord Cobham, in his beautiful garden, his beautiful landscape with his house at the top, why would he want a temple devoted to Venus?
So Venus was the Roman goddess of sex and of gardening. So the Temple of Venus concludes the Western garden and the path and the garden of vice.
Gone through my entire life not realising that she was my goddess.
There you go.
And I'm talking about gardening.
Absolutely.
We're looking at a man who was notably pious. He was very keen on liberty and honesty in that respect. And yet there's this path of vice. Is he showing another side of himself, really?
I think he is. He was a politician and a soldier to begin with, but he also understood his personal matters, and I think Vice displayed some of those and gave an opportunity to show off that side of his life.
So inside, there's a room in there which is not quite plain. What would have been in there?
So there would have been exotic images and actually quite lewd images.
So people would come here, observe Lord Cobham's dirty linen and go home chastened, presumably?
Yes, they would have a very different experience on this side of the garden as opposed to the paths of virtue and liberty. But actually, the real secrets to this temple actually lie underground, beneath our feet, so maybe we should go and have a look.
Well, I need my wellies.
You might do. They're just over here, yeah.
What's this? What have we got?
This is a subterranean world that sits underneath the Temple of Venus, and it houses some of the secrets that power the waterworks around the wider estate.
So we're going into the underworld?
So we're going to go down into the underworld beneath the Temple of Venus.
Come on, then. Wish me luck.
Good luck.
Going in. Awfully dark down here. Crikey. Who'd have thought? It really is a hidden world.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. So this would have been a reservoir filled with water.
It would, yes, with a large water wheel in here, and it would have generated power and built up water under pressure to feed a guggly fountain in the middle of the former Octagon Lake.
It looks as though the water comes in over there, runs down, so the wheel is... This must have been quite a scary place underneath here originally, when there's a big, powerful wheel going round and round.
Yes, the noise would have been incredible, I imagine, with gallons of water gushing through the water wheel and generating all of that power. It would have been incredible.
You little think, when you're looking at these artistic and spiritually significant classical monuments above ground, that anything like this would be underneath. So you see, not only were they building things of great significance, they were also doing feats of engineering as well.
Amazing feats of engineering, and all to create illusions around the wider estate. So this is all designed to move water about and to power fountains. So this is adding to the magical mysteries of Stow.
Sadly, the fountains have long since run dry. But the influence of the inspirational Viscount Cobham is still plain to see across the estate. Guided by Capability Brown, the genius of English landscape design, Cobham created a masterpiece that manages to combine political symbolism with sheer visual and sensual pleasure. So, of course, he should have his very own monument. And historian Dan Jones has come to Stow to get up close and personal with the man himself.
In 1747, Capability Brown set about building a monument to his boss, Lord Cobham. But shortly afterwards, the monument became a memorial, because within a year of its completion, Cobham was dead.
The octagonal column stands at an imposing 115 feet, with Cobham sporting a Roman toga on top.
This is a pretty impressive monument, isn't it?
It's a big old lump, yeah.
National Trust building surveyor Fred Markland looks after the conservation of Stow's buildings and monuments.
Even when you're down here, you can see Lord Cobham. He looks kind of life-size. How big is he when you get up there?
At least twice normal height, 2.5 times perhaps.
Now, all round the monument there are these inscriptions. Let's go and have a look. They're on every side of the monument. What are they all about?
They're Latin inscriptions, and they're really celebrating Cobham's life, his military past, his civic duties, his life developing the gardens here at Stow.
The engravings are really a list of his accomplishments, an 18th century CV.
A monumental man in all sense of the word.
It's not just a monument, is it? It's got another purpose, because you can go up.
You can climb up inside. There's a staircase all the way to the top. And from that point, from the belvedere at the top, which is glazed, you can overlook Cobham's marvellous landscape.
Protecting Cobham from the elements with a regular top coat of lime wash is a vital part of Fred's duties.
How often does it get lime washed?
Ideally, you'd want to lime wash this every 5 years or so, or at least give it a coat of something. But It hasn't been done for 15 years, since the monument was last restored.
Well, let's go and have a look inside.
Exactly, yeah, yeah.
Ah, right, so I really am doing it.
I'm scaling the 139 stairs to the Belvedere, rarely open to visitors, where I can enjoy the view and also be shown the ropes of conserving this ultimate garden feature.
That is a tight squeeze. But it's worth it. Hello. Hello. You all right down there?
Yeah.
Mind if I come and join you?
We'll sort you out.
All right, come on then.
And rig you up. Oh.
Joe Pizzali has 30 years' experience under his harness, having inspected, repaired and consulted on some of Britain's most precious buildings.
I feel a little bit more nervous with every passing minute, actually. I mean, I know I shouldn't be, but there's just something totally unnatural about getting out of a window 115 feet in the air and leaning back. Do you know what I mean?
Get your thumb out. Hold it down like this. There you go.
Now I'm through my blind panic. I mean, it is an incredible view up here, isn't it? The statue of Lord Cobham up the top, he's got the best view in the house, hasn't he?
He's even better than ours, darling.
I know. When you're this high up, you're surveying everything beneath you, right? I mean, this is the position for the lord of the house.
Absolutely.
Let's go down a bit
Yeah,
further.
let's go down and have a look.
Tell me, what are the basics of lime washing? What are we doing?
It's a very old technique. So in here, we've got a slurry of stone dusts to give it colour and a paint, as it were, made up of calcium carbonate putty.
OK, well, can I have a go?
Of course you can. Goggles on first.
Oh, yeah. Slap it on?
Slap it on.
The mixture here not only returns the statue to its original appearance, it helps repel acid and preserve the life of the stone.
It's actually quite therapeutic in a way, isn't it? I mean...
Almost zen-like. Yeah. Given it's your first time on the end of a rope with a brush in your hand, you're doing very, very well.
I can sort of see the appeal, actually. You know, once you're up here for a while, you know, you've got this incredibly privileged view. You know, genuinely only the birds have got. And you're doing work that's keeping, you know, a great monument like this one of Lord Cobham in good nick for future generations. I mean, you've got to have a lot of job satisfaction, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It is a privilege, and I feel it every time I do it, so yes, yeah.
I'm actually quite envious. Still want to go down, though.
Let's go.
Come on. Oh, better mind the inscription.
Just watch the manuscript if you can. Lovely.
Yeah. We could do with that staying around a few more years, couldn't we?
It's, yeah.
Back on solid ground. Wow. I mean, my legs are shaking a bit, but that was an amazing experience. Amazing experience. You know, I feel really proud, not just for having survived the abseiling, but also for having contributed in some small way to the preservation of this great garden. And when I think of the monument, nothing could be more fitting than Lord Cobham, 100 feet in the air, surveying all this magnificence he created.
Lord of all he surveyed he may have been, but Cobham's lofty ambitions reached new heights with his preoccupation with royalty. The Trust's Catherine Lovell is giving me an exclusive look at a rarely seen set of documents which show the devastating consequences of being a royal superfan.
When did the obsession with royalty start?
Well, Lord Cobham, it probably began with him. He was really keen to move in those circles of the upper echelons of society.
He was a social climber.
Definitely. He wanted to get the recognition of having the royals to visit, and that carried on down the generations in the family.
Cobham used his neoclassical house and landscape to butter up the most powerful family in the land, and in 1737 he was proud to receive the Prince of Wales. But his descendant, the second Duke of Buckingham and Chandos, wasn't to be outdone, inviting the Queen to visit in 1845.
The Duke of Buckingham is trying to get Queen Victoria to come.
That Queen Victoria and Prince Albert did visit in 1845.
What did they do for Queen Victoria coming?
He created a whole driveway for her, which is called the Queen's Drive. He gilded everything, made everything as blingy as it possibly could be.
What does she think of this extravagance?
Sadly for the Duke, she wasn't that keen, we understand. I think she felt it was all a little bit too ostentatious. And we're given an example of this when it's rumoured that she went into her room to find a carpet, which she herself had been offered for sale, but had felt it was too expensive. So to then find it here...
Oh, so for one of her subjects to buy it when she decided it was too expensive for her, not a good move.
No, I don't think it went down very well.
Unfortunately, an overpriced carpet was just the tip of the iceberg for this spendthrift Duke, and the Queen's visit was the final straw.
When the Duke invited the Queen to visit, he was already in debt to the tune of £1 million.
Then?
Yes, sadly so. Within 3 years of her visit, the Duke was declared bankrupt, and the contents of the House of Garden were largely put up for sale in 1848.
Did it make much money?
Sadly not. It was a 40-day sale, but we understand that it...
40
days, yes.
That's a lot of stuff.
But we understand that it only made around £75,000.
And we knew he was in debt before to $1 million.
Exactly.
It's nothing then, is it?
No.
The Duke earned the less desirable title of the greatest debtor in the world, ending his life in a seedy London hotel. By 1921, there were no descendants left with the heart to take on the estate, and Stow was sold. This catalogue is a record of that final chapter.
So you could even buy one of the temples. The Temple of Concord and Victory was up for sale, as well as... what, 5 antique copper two-handled urns. Lot 3,746. I mean, God, the Temple of Bacchus, an antique alto relievo carved stone frieze. I mean, they were selling everything from tiny weeny bits to socking great temples, but still not enough money to save it.
Sadly, no, still not enough money. I believe it raised around £50,000 on this occasion.
Well, how lucky that some of it didn't go.
Exactly.
Catherine has unearthed another Stow innovation, one that helps the Trust keep track of just what happened on the estate.
Stow was one of the places to have the first guidebook, 1744, our first guidebook dates from, and that's vital information for us seeing what temples have gone, what statues have gone, and what things have been moved during that period. They did like to move things around as they created new parts of the garden. It expanded over the years.
But it is still a magical place, isn't it? And knowing that all this happened, that the place actually almost fell apart, gives it a kind of added frisson, really, doesn't it?
Yes, we're so lucky that enough of it was saved for us to still be able to view it today.
Stow and its gardens may have a glorious history as the seat of the Duke of Buckingham and Chandos, but many know of it today as one of the most famous boarding schools in the world. Despite not being owned by the National Trust, it is open to the public thanks to the Stow House Preservation Trust.
And given the fact that the school boasts such alumni as entrepreneur Sir Richard Branson and Superman actor Henry Cavill, well, can't wait to see inside.
Stow House was in ruins after the Duke of Buckingham's disastrous overspending. It was rescued by the Allied school group who wanted to establish a new type of public school, less traditional and more liberal. The group fell in love with the location, and in 1923, it became the school we know today. I've been summoned to meet headmaster Dr. Anthony Wallersteiner, who's going to share Stow's secrets over a spot of school dinner.
I'm told that there's something special about this particular place.
You're sitting in the hot seat.
Why the hot seat?
This is where Queen Victoria sat when she came to Stow, January 1845.
This was the dining room?
It was called the State Dining Room because of the state visits. And you have to imagine it with an incredibly long table down the middle, tapestries on the wall, paintings by some of the greatest artists of the Renaissance going through to the 18th, early 19th century. So no expense spared.
Here I am, you're right, I'm almost exactly in the spot.
Well,
count the windows back, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4. We are bang on by the fifth window.
There you are, you're exactly where she was.
Debts and a lack of heirs changed the fate of Stow and its sale ultimately led to the school we see today, home to over 750 pupils. But royalty continues to be welcome at Stow.
So, Queen Victoria, are there famous people who've been in these hallowed halls?
Every reigning monarch, including Her Majesty the Queen, Elizabeth II, in terms of other famous personalities, probably the most famous band in the whole world.
The Beatles?
The Beatles.
The Beatles performed in Stow?
The Fab Four.
How come they came here?
Well, there's a man called David Moores. He wrote to Brian Epstein, the manager of the Beatles.
As a pupil?
As a pupil, as a 17-year-old boy, and invited the Beatles. And Epstein wanted them to get a bit more exposure, so he went along with it. And it was only right at the last minute that he discovered that Stow was a school and that David was a 17-year-old schoolboy. And there's a sort of hurried exchange where Brian Epstein says, can you get the contract countersigned by an adult, preferably a housemaster? And Paul McCartney says about this concert, it was the first concert they'd played for about a year where they could hear themselves play their instruments and sing because they didn't have all the Beatlemania and all the girls going, wow. So,
very well-behaved Stow pupils.
Very well-behaved, yes. Well done, the Beatles, well done.
That visit was in 1963. They were soon to become the iconic figures we know today. Music producer Pete Waterman is part of the Beatles generation, and he's heading to Liverpool to discover the surprising connection between their gig at Stow and another recently acquired National Trust property in a quiet Liverpool suburb.
Being here brings back my own memories of growing up in the 50s and 60s, amidst the Beatlemania that captivated my generation. You would think this is the most unlikely spot for a revolution to begin, but it did. This is the Cavern Club, and four guys took on the world, not with bullets, but yeahs and oohs. John Lennon was one of those. Today's Liverpool would still be recognisable to John as the city he grew up in and gigged in. As were these suburbs and one particular unassuming semi-detached on Menlove Avenue. I'm in Walton in Liverpool. I'm at the place where John Lennon, for 15 years, grew up. This was his Auntie Mimi's house. Looks a bit like Auntie Ginny's house. Built in the 1930s, number 251, or Mendips, as it is also known, is a mecca for all Beatles fans. Gifted to the National Trust by Yoko Ono in 2002, it's where John grew up after the breakup of his parents' marriage, and of course, where the music magic began. The only way to see inside John Lennon's childhood home is with Colin Hall, who has been guiding visitors around Mendips for 14 years.
Good afternoon, how are you?
Colin, how are you?
Nice to meet you, Pete. Sorry, I was just washing up.
That's all right, no problem.
Do come in.
Glad you're washing up, not asking me to do it.
No, right.
Wow.
Well, this is Mendips, and this is the way that people would come into the house. In Liverpool, we used to have a phrase that you come round the back to save the carpet.
Just so 1950, like, you know.
And of course, the way that the National Trust has restored the house has been because it's got eyewitnesses that it can turn to, some of the student lodges that Mimi took in, family, friends, their photographs, their memories of Mimi feeding people on green beryl crockery and having yellow formica in the kitchen.
The house retains its original fixtures and fittings. It's just like my old childhood home. But all the contents have been recreated with period accuracy right down to the tiniest detail. My grandma had a stove exactly the same, you know. And the only thing that was missing when I walked in here was the joint being cooked for my dad's Sunday lunch.
Exactly. Pete, would you like to go into the morning room?
Oh, this is posh. Oh, blimey.
This is the room that Mimi fashioned, really, as the family room. It was small and cosy, and John would sit in here drawing, and she would gather together some of the pictures she thought he'd discarded And he would say, oh, don't throw those away, Mimi, because one day I'm going to be famous and they'll be worth a lot of money. Well, Pete, this is Aunt Mimi's living room. This is the best room in the house. And she was very proud of this room. They did like to come in here to read. And John favoured author Lewis Carroll. And if you listen to songs like I Am the Walrus, Lucy in the Sky, I think you can hear that reflected in his lyrics.
What have you got here?
A Galatone champion. He saw it advertised in Reveille, a magazine of the day. And you could...
On the back?
Yes.
Yeah.
You could send for it mail order, and it was a cheap acoustic instrument.
Wow, amazing.
And Mimi, she used to say, you know, the guitar's all right, but John, but you'll never make your living at it.
I can't sit and look at that guitar without having a bash at it.
I was very fortunate to speak to Paul McCartney once. He said, do they still have that porch? And I said, yes, they do, Paul. And he said, oh, it's got a great reverb. John and I called it our echo chamber. We'd go into the porch to play.
Come on then, we've got to go into the porch.
Right.
That is obvious. So this is the echo chamber, is it?
This is the echo chamber. John would stand with his back to that door, and Paul had his back to this door. And of course, they're right and left-handed.
Yes.
So it's like a mirror image.
It's a mirror image. Oh, my balloon love, she's my babe. Oh, great.
Yeah, great echo.
Amazing. From a house like this to one of the greatest talents of all time. Just staggering. And from these modest beginnings to global superstar, what a real ticket to ride.
Lord Cobham's successor, Richard Earl Temple, once said of Stow, I am extravagantly in love. Never, never was anything half so fine and charming.
And you know what? I think he's right. At every turn, there's a spectacular view.
But I'm lucky to have that opportunity to explore it as it was meant to be. And that's because when the National Trust acquired the landscape garden in 1989, they immediately set about a 30-year restoration programme to return it to its former glory.
Once, Stow's gardens boasted well over 100 grand statues, but by 1922, many had been sold to private collections. The Trust set about finding them and recreating these precious originals so they could return once more to their plinths. To find out more about this fantastic project, historian Susanna Lipscomb headed to Cliveden Conservation in Norfolk to uncover some of the recast stone treasures before they head home.
Here at Horton in Norfolk, these workshops may look small, but they play an absolutely crucial role in the huge restoration project happening at Stow. Because inside, they're busy recreating the classical statues that will restore Stow's gardens to their former 18th century glory. The originals of these recast statues have arrived here from far and wide. One had been in the Victoria and Albert Museum and the others from private, and I'm guessing, rather large gardens. There are at least 20 more statues in the making, 5 of which have been cast and are awaiting their finishing touches by conservators like Alex Rickett.
So this is one of the sculptures that we've cast for Stow. This is Samson and the Philistines, and he's just getting final clean up.
So this is an exclusive preview. We're seeing them before they're put in place.
Yeah, no one's seen them yet.
That's great. And what's the process for doing this? Are there special techniques?
Yeah, so we start with an original sculpture that we copy. So we bring the original to the workshop here, and then we start the mould making process. So we use silicone rubber to make the moulds, which gives absolutely perfect detail replication. So every grain of sand will be picked out.
That's amazing.
And then once we've got the mould, we cast it. So they're cast solids with a reconstituted stone mix.
Alex is going to show me just how these perfect replicas are created.
Okay, so these are for you.
Right, I'm all kitted out, so let's go.
Okay, we'll make a start. First, this is the mother mould, we call it. So there's a hard case that supports the silicon rubber inside. Okay, so we'll just get these nuts and bolts in to secure the two pieces together.
Okay. Does it matter where I start?
No, anywhere. We'll get a nice tight fit between the two. So when we pour the mix in, we won't have any leaking out, hopefully.
Trying to keep up. Okay.
We're now going to mix up our reconstituted stone
Yeah.
mix.
The conservators have blended their own mixture that will be as tough and durable as the original stone. Made up from two different sands, stone dust and grit, which lends the sculpture its colour, it's held together with a light cement that also gives the cast its strength.
Okay.
Oh, you have to be strong to do this, John. I can't believe I'm going to make something as beautiful as those things in there.
We'll hold it there for now.
Okay.
And we'll get the poker, which will vibrate the mix and just make it flow into the mould.
Okay.
And just, yeah. So put that into the mould. And you can go all the way down. Brilliant.
Okay.
Okay. We can take it out of the moulds in about 48 hours.
Okay. 2 days is then. Luckily for me, I don't have to wait that long, as Alex has a cast ready to be freed from its mould. This is precisely what the one we just made would look like.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow. Oh, it smells, doesn't it? Okay. That's the exciting bit. Oh, wow.
There she is.
It's been so exciting to see Stow's restoration project firsthand with Clifton's conservators. These statues have been brought back to life through modern craftsmanship. And I, for one, can't wait to see them take up their rightful places on the plinths at Stow.
Stow represents a dynasty that evolved over 300 years and is an example of power gardening that gained notoriety in Britain and which was replicated in France, Russia and the United States.
Looking round the house's grand architecture and seeing the portrait of Lord Cobham on the wall, you can't help but think if he saw the Stow of today a seat of learning, he couldn't help but be satisfied.
But it's his gardens that are the real triumph. He built them to provoke political thought, encourage reflection, and celebrate liberty, and a little bit of sauciness. He succeeded. Stow does all that and more.